Hi everyone, and welcome to today's video where we're going to be doing a guide on the new colonial nations and their mechanics that came out with EU4 1.31 Leviathan. Before we begin, consider leaving a like and subscribing if you enjoyed this video. Only 10% of you are subscribed, so it would really mean a lot. Let's get started. Now, as you know, this update introduced 3 new types of colonial nations, which are the Crown Colony, the Private Enterprise, and the Self-Governing Colony. And you basically pick what type of colony you want your colony to be when you get 5 provinces and the colony establishes itself. So let's take a look at them and explain them. Now, once you colonize 4 provinces, like I have, you will be colonizing the 5th. And there we go, I colonized my 5th province, and now once a day goes by, this is what you will get. This window will pop up, and it says New Colonial Nation, and of course you can choose how to name it. You always could do this, but here you get to pick which type of colony it will be. So the first type, which is selected by default, is the Crown Colony. So, a Crown Colony has a high amount of direct control from the Overlord. They contribute a good amount of money and manpower. And if this colony has at least 10 provinces, we will get land force limit bonus 50% of the colony, naval force limit bonus 2.5% of the colony, manpower bonus 50% of the colony, sailors bonus 2.5% of the colony, and of course if we have 10 cities, once again we have the old buffs as well, which means we get +1 merchant, +5 global trade power, +5 land force limit, +10 naval force limit, and the colony also gets -6 yearly tax income, -3 land force limit, -6 naval force limit, +10 global settler increase, and -0.05 monthly autonomy change. So this is basically the type of colony you want to have in your most powerful colonies and the large colonial nations, such as for example Mexico or the Eastern North American colony. Basically the most powerful colonies that you will have. Next we have the Private Enterprise. So a private enterprise will focus on getting extra monetary value out of the land and bringing that home to the Overlord. If the colony has at least 10 provinces, we get naval force limit bonus 50% of the colony, sailors bonus 50% of the colony, +1 merchant, +5 global trade power, +5 land force limit, +10 naval force limit, but -5% global tariffs. And the colony gets -6 yearly tax income, -3 land force limit, -6 naval force limit. They do get, however, +20% goods produced, +20% ship trade power, +10% ship trade power propagation, and +10% navy tradition from protecting trade. So, as you've already guessed by the name and by the bonuses it provides, this is the type of colony that you should give to nations that will heavily focus on trade and routing trade to you through all these nodes back to you in the old world, for example if you're playing as Castile like I am in this guide. So this is the type of colony you would want to give to your colonies here in the Caribbean perhaps, where all the trade from South America is routed through the Caribbean and then to the old world, or maybe also the Gulf of St. Lawrence, or even a colony in the Eastern North American region. So basically we're going to be assigning this type of colony to colonies which control basically end nodes in the new world going towards the old world, where we want to maximize all the trade we can get, and we want to make these colonial nations the most trade focused. And finally we have the self-governing colony. So a self-governing colony will focus on cultivating and improving the land. They will have a higher liberty desire than any other type of colony, but will be able to expand and develop faster. As you can see here, if the colony has at least 10 provinces, we don't get almost any buffs out of them. So this is the least beneficial one to us, but the most beneficial one to them. We get land force limit bonus plus 0.5% of the colony, naval force limit plus 0.5% of the colony, manpower bonus and sailors bonus also 0.5% of the colony, and if they have 10 cities we get +1 merchant, +5 global trade power, +5 land force limit, +10 naval force limit, and -10% global tariff. So all of these are the old ones. And they get -6 yearly tax income, -3 land force limit, -6 naval force limit. They do however get -15% dev cost, +1 colonists, and +25% liberty desire. So when should you use this colony? Well, either way by the end game, which would be after the 1700s, ideally all your colonies would be either crown colonies or private enterprises, but you would want to pick self-governing colony in the initial establishments of large colonies. So if we take a look at the colonial and trade regions, of course we can see that the biggest ones are Brazil, La Plata, Mexico, and maybe the Eastern United States. I'm talking about province number, of course, not by their appearance on the map. So Mexico, Brazil, and the colonial Eastern America regions have the most provinces. So you would want to give this type of colony to colonies which you establish there in the largest regions, because you want to help them expand as fast as they can and fill up their entire colonial region as soon as possible. So I'm just gonna assign a crown colony to Castilian Brazil right here, and we're gonna continue with explaining the unique mechanics that each of these types of colonies has, and after that we'll explain exactly which colonies, so in which colonial regions, should get which types of colony. So if we right click on our colony and we go into the subject interaction tab, click on Castilian Brazil, scroll down, we can see the modify subject relationship tab. Once we click this, we can see all the unique interactions we can do with each type of colony. Now these are grayed out because of course Brazil is not a private enterprise or a self-governing colony. We selected crown colony, and each type of colony has 4 unique subject interactions. So let's see them. So the first thing we need to do is, as we can see, once we activate this upgrade, our colony will gain plus 10% liberty desire, they will lose 25 admin power, and we will get plus 5 land force limit, and they will get minus 5 land force limit. This interaction is called increased draft from colony. The second interaction, enlarge the gold fleet, will cost us 100 ducats, they will get plus 10 liberty desire and will lose 25 admin power, and we will get plus 20% treasure fleet income. The third one is called increase religious control. It will cost us 100 ducats, they get plus 10 liberty desire and lose 25 admin power, and they get plus 1 missionary strength and minus 1 tolerance of heathen. And the fourth one is called increase irrigation. It costs 100 ducats, they lose 10% liberty desire, lose 25 admin power, we lose 25 governing capacity, and they lose 10 more liberty desire. So when should you use these on your crown colony? Once you do establish your crown colony, I in fact recommend immediately taking the enlarge gold fleet interaction, which now seems to have disappeared after we selected it, and I also recommend taking increased draft from colony, and I also recommend taking increase integration, which basically negates all the liberty desire that we just gave them. The only time you should take increased religious control is if you're going for a one faith. Colonial nations don't get any malices from having unaccepted religions, so this doesn't matter too much if you're not going for a one faith. Now let's check out the bonuses for private enterprises. As you can see here, I have 4 provinces in the Caribbean colonial region, and I'm just going to get one more. There we go. We have 5 provinces, and once we unpause, we will get the event, and we will select private enterprise. And once again, we're going to go into the subject interaction screen and modify subject relationship. And here we have the 4 interactions we can use with private enterprises. So the first one is increase trade power transfer. They get 10 liberty desire, lose 25 admin power, we get plus 2 global trade power, and they get minus 2 global trade power. The second one is encourage cash crops. They gain 10% liberty desire, lose 25 admin power, and cash crop trade goods will be more likely to appear in their provinces. This is basically the probability of very high value trade goods appearing in uncolonized provinces will be increased substantially. The third one is increase navies from colony, which gives them plus 10 liberty desire and they lose 25 admin power, and we get plus 5 naval force limit and they lose 5 naval force limit. And the last one is increase the gold tax. They gain plus 10 liberty desire, lose 25 admin power, we gain plus 5 national tax modifier, and they lose 5 national tax modifier. So which ones do I recommend that you take immediately after forming the colony? Well, the only one I actually recommend taking is encourage cash crops, so that high value trade goods are more likely to appear in their uncolonized provinces in their region. The plus 5 naval force limit and a plus 5 national tax modifier won't be very useful to you. So if you want to take a second one, you should take increased trade power transfer, where you gain trade power. Is it worth it for the plus 10 liberty desire? I don't know, honestly. And now I have established a colony in colonial Eastern America, and I'm going to select self-governing colony for this one. And we can see here there are 4 unique interactions. The first one is allow autonomous trade. Now this one costs 25 admin power. We don't get anything, but they get domestic trade power plus 5 and lose 5 liberty desire. The second one is allow autonomous taxing. They lose 25 admin power, we don't get anything, they get plus 5 national tax modifier and lose minus 5% liberty desire. The third one is allow autonomous militias. They lose 25 admin, they gain plus 5 national manpower and lose minus 5 liberty desire. And the final one is allow autonomous navy. They lose admin power and gain 10% sailors and lose 5% liberty desire. Which ones do I recommend for you to select when you have a self-governing colony? Actually, I recommend taking all of them as soon as you can. and of course as soon as you have the money, so they can get the highest bonuses possible as soon as possible, so they will be able to expand rapidly. Now that we have explained the 3 types of colonies and all their unique subject interactions, it's time for me to tell you what type of colonies you should set up where and when you should swap out of them or shouldn't swap out of them. So here we are in the colonial and trade regions map mode, and you can find this map mode in the geographic map modes right here. As you can see, we have all the colonial regions. So colonial Cascadia, colonial Canada, colonial Louisiana, Eastern America, Mexico, California, Caribbean, Colombia, Peru, Brazil, and La Plata. And of course, let's not forget colonial Australia. Now we're gonna start from the top. And this is what I recommend. For your colony in colonial Canada, if you're playing as France or Great Britain, you should set up a private enterprise and keep it that way for the rest of the game. If you're Portugal or Castile, you should select a crown colony for this one. For colonial Cascadia, whoever you are, you should select a crown colony and keep it that way for the rest of the game. For colonial California, you should also select a crown colony and keep it that way for the rest of the game. For colonial Louisiana, initially you should select a self-governing colony. Once they reach their maximum size, you can go into the subject interaction screen and select change colonial type. And from here, you can swap out of whatever colony they are to something else. Once they do reach their maximum potential, you should switch them to a crown colony. In colonial Eastern America, if you're Great Britain or France, you should start out as a self-governing colony and later swap to a private enterprise. If you're Portugal or Castile, you should also start off with a self-governing colony but switch them to a crown colony. For colonial Mexico, you should also start off with a self-governing colony, and then when they finish colonizing everything, swap to a crown colony. For the colonial Caribbean, whoever you are, you should select private enterprise and keep it that way for the rest of the game. For the colonial Colombia region, you should select a crown colony and keep it that way. For the colonial Peru region, you should select a crown colony and keep it that way. For the colonial Brazil region, you should start off with a self-governing colony, and if you're Portugal or Castile, you should swap it to a private enterprise once they're done colonizing, and if you're someone else, you should swap it to a crown colony. For the colonial La Plata region, you should start out with a crown colony and keep it that way for the rest of the game. For the colonial Australia region, you should select a self-governing colony and keep it that way for the rest of the game. That way they will be a powerful colony. You won't get lots of stuff from them anyway. They don't have very good trade goods, and they will help you out in conquering these regions right here. And that's pretty much everything you need to know for the new types of colonies. Now, some other colonization tips. Once you have a colonist, make sure to focus on colonizing only one colonial region, so you get 5 provinces as soon as possible, and then your colony will establish, and then you can subsidize them 2 to 4 ducats, so they will continue colonizing on their own while you move your merchant to a different colonial region and wait for 5 provinces there so you can establish another colony. You don't need to keep tariffs too high. Around 10 to 15% is fine. Either way, if you're a big and strong nation, your colonies shouldn't be revolting. You can always placate their rulers. And that's pretty much everything you need to know for the 3 new colonial types. Let me know what other mechanic that came out in Leviathan you want me to make a guide for. If you enjoyed this video, don't hesitate to leave a like and subscribe. Only 10% of you are subscribed, so it would really mean a lot. And I've also launched channel memberships, so if you want to support the channel with more than subscribing, you can check out the join button down below and join the Discord. The link is in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time with another EU4 video.